Well, hello there. I am chatting with a dear soul sister, priestess, medicine woman who is sitting right now on a floor in Puerto Viejo, Costa Rica, which, if you didn't know this, I lived for the 3 of my life before moving to Maui. And it is such a breath of fresh and beautiful Caribbean air to hear your voice and see your face today, Fern Olivia.
Aw, thank you so much. Yeah, I am sitting on a floor on a really nice pillow, on my deck. And it's because the lighting is the best over here and it's about to get dark in an hour. So this is where the best sunlight comes through. So I'm really happy to be here. And this is so fun because I haven't done a podcast and probably since I moved to Costa Rica. I used to do them all the time when I lived in California. So this is a breath of fresh air for me too. So I'm really happy to be here. I don't even know all the juiciness that we're about to discuss, so it's going to be really exciting and surprising. So
It's a mystery
thank you.
unfolding
It's a mystery unfolding,
before
just like
our very ears and eyes, depending on where you are consuming this beautiful content. So,
mm,
I am really so Fern and I are going to see each other pretty soon when I head back over to Costa Rica. I'm really excited for us to weave together some beautiful magic because we have very similar ways of showing up in the world, and in some ways, kind of similar story. Um,
yes.
and yeah, we'll get into all of that. But I just want to start with the portal opening question, which is in this incarnation, this gorgeous incarnation
Mm,
that sits before me over Zoom right now, what is your soul's purpose on the planet today?
mm. So my soul's purpose on this planet every day is to live a life of freedom and to inspire people to know what's possible. So whatever freedom means for me that day, it's living in flow with the earth, it's living in flow with my community, with myself, and showing people what's possible with love and with music. So my purpose is around self-expression through my voice, and I want to show what's possible, what happens in your life when you can sing freely, when you can make music freely, whether that's in ceremony, whether that's in relationship, whether it's in all everything, right? Because life is a ceremony and we are in relationship constantly. So that's my purpose, and I'm doing that a lot right now through singing and sound journeys and ceremonies and singing with my partner and doing retreats around that as well. So that's my purpose, and that's how I live my life every day in spirit. And I am so grateful that spirit gave me that purpose.
Me too. Because that's how we found one another on this journey in Puerto
Yes.
Viejo, Costa Rica, was because we are both embodying that those values of freedom and sovereignty
Mm.
and travel and now I'm adding. I mean, I've been a big avid fan of music and of plant medicines
Yes.
for years, but I'm more fully embodying those parts of myself
Yes.
now, and so that's it's just really it's beautiful to co-create with you in that way. So I want to hear some about your story because I know that you used to work on Wall Street and now you're a
Yes.
jungle goddess. So how did you go from the concrete jungle of Wall Street to this beautiful jungle that I see in your background now?
Thank you. It's so funny because when I look at the timeline of Wall Street, I left that world in 2014. So that's a 7-year cycle. So it's really funny and I get my Facebook memories and things, and I actually moved to LA from New York City October 22nd, which was only a couple days ago from today, the date that we're speaking here. So I moved from the Wall Street. I worked in the Wall Street world for 7 years. I did trade support. I wrote policies. I did tech stuff. I trained people all around the world. And, with my personality, I was able to really just rock it, because I'm energetic and bubbly and, relationship building. So I did some things that I really enjoyed, and there were other things like staring at a computer screen all day at spreadsheets that I didn't enjoy. So eventually, when I got really sick with a thyroid autoimmune disorder, my body like hit rock bottom, fainted in the subway, was on birth control, like all the things out of alignment. And when I was 28 and hit my Saturn return, I purged all the things in my life that weren't of service to me or the world. The universe was basically like, stop, cut, like end scene. So I left the corporate world at that point in 2014, ended a 7-year relationship, and then moved from New York to LA. But during that time of my New York period, as I was working in finance, I created an entire wellness brand and yoga brand, and I was doing events and working with holistic medical practitioners and doing a lot of work with women's holistic health. So I was already generating that exciting career that I wanted, where I was in service and I was working with healing. Moved to LA, there for 2.5 years, and that's really where everything took off because I was fully embodying myself. I started working with priestess energy and really learning about what it is to be truly in my sensuality and in my feminine energy. And LA really embodies that so much more than New York. So then Costa Rica came, completely random, yet the universe, again, it was at the end of my Saturn return, and the universe was like, okay, here's an opportunity. You can even more embody your true self and live in Costa Rica. And I got that opportunity through a house swap. Left my LA house for a month, went to Costa Rica, fell in love with my life in Nosara, because for the first time in my life, I really started to love myself on a really deep level. It wasn't about serving everyone and being this public figure that I had become this brand in New York and LA. Nothing wrong with that, but I lost who Fern Olivia inside, little girl Fern Olivia, who she was. And in Nosara, I started singing with the trees. I started going on walks with myself. It was rainy season, so the power would shut off sometimes in a big storm at 7 o'clock at night. And all I had was my little shruti box, which I play music with, my voice, a notepad, and I would sit by candlelight and I would start writing songs and poetry. And it became this way for me to really connect with who I was and why I was here. And so Costa Rica called me in and she showed me, this is who you are. And because of that, it's been 5 years and I'm still here and I love it. And I've moved from place to place in Costa Rica. Now I'm in Puerto Viejo on the Caribbean side. But every time I've moved, it's because the universe is like, okay, go deeper. Okay, here's an invitation, go deeper. Who are you? Who are you? And here in Puerto, even more myself than I was in either Santa Teresa or Nosara. So it's been beautiful to keep receiving those invitations from the universe, and now to start to travel again and share this medicine with the world, the voice, the freedom. So that's how I went from Wall Street to jungle goddess. I just listened.
I have to say that I won't go into too much detail, but I have a similar story. I was working in Atlanta
Mm,
in bureaucracy and Centers for Disease Control and Prevention, different than Wall Street, but still this like bureaucratic environment that was not really in tune with who I am. And super long
mhm,
story short, because I also moved to California and had all these other experiences. But I got to Puerto, like I went down to Costa Rica and the Dominical area first on the Pacific side, and had a visit and had a huge revelation and
mm,
I call it my waterfall surrender moment. Like just
mm,
like really felt guided by Mother Earth, Source, whatever you want to call her, us, me,
us.
and and then when I moved to Puerto a couple years later,
Mm,
I literally found myself. I literally
mm,
was like, oh, this is who I am.
mm,
And and then you have iterative versions of that because I'm having that similar experience here in Maui now, of like, and this is who I am too. And so these geographical locations, these pressure points, these acupressure points on the planet can really enliven us and show us who we are on a deep level. I highly recommend people do retreats. And we'll talk more about the kinds of retreats that you hold, but I highly, in general, recommend that people do retreats. Retreats have changed my life.
Same. Yes. So many. I resonate with that so much. I mean, retreats, every time that I've gone on one, even every time that I've hosted one, it's life changing because you're
Mm-hmm.
put out of your normal day to day and then given a schedule, and you're invited to go deep within yourself and retreat from the world that is sometimes so comfortable or sometimes so routine. So yeah, I highly recommend that. And that,
And
yeah.
sometimes I like to reframe a retreat, even though it is a retreat from your normal life. I also like to reframe them as activations because it's also activating another part of
Mm,
yourself, especially if it's a retreat that really resonates with your soul and a place that really resonates with your soul. It's like it activates this part of you. In fact, my one retreat that I went on that activated a huge part of me was in Puerto Viejo. That's how I discovered that little beautiful town, was
wow.
at a retreat called the Jungle Goddess Retreat, led by
Oh,
Camille
wow.
Williman, who is forever a sister to me. And so, yeah, so Jungle Goddess remains in very much alive in
Wow.
the Puerto area.
Wow. I mean, that's funny because my first retreat that I ever did was a surf and yoga retreat in Puerto Rico. So it's like, and it did activate something inside me. I saw those women leading the retreat and I was just like, someday I want to do what they do. I was like, someday I want to host retreats and live in a beautiful place like this all the time. And I remember my dad saying to me, bless his heart, he was saying, that's what people do on vacation. That's not you can, like, how would you do that? And I was working at Wall Street at the time. But then 2 years later, going back to the Wall Street story, I did my yoga teacher training. And in that time, I became a teacher. And I was working 50, 60, 70-hour weeks on Wall Street. And 4 times out of the year, I would use my vacation days to lead retreats in Puerto Rico. And I did that for 4 or 5 years, working in finance at the same time as I was leading yoga retreats in Puerto Rico. And yeah, I would really recommend people go on retreats because that retreat changed my life. Here I am now, over 7 years later, because that was 2011 when I started. um, that I went on that first retreat and it showed me what I could do for the rest of my life. And that's what I'm still doing today, leading retreats, showing people how they can live a life of freedom and love. So do it. Do
Do it. Freedom and love. It doesn't have to mean that
it.
you become a retreat leader, but you can like really lean into a much fuller
Mm,
expression of yourself. You can even take that back
yes.
to your normal life, and find yourself, your sovereign, free self, wherever you are
Mm,
and wherever you be. So that leads me into another question that is so relevant for this show and
mm,
this time on the planet. And that is, what does the new paradigm, when you think of like a new paradigm,
mm,
what does that look like and feel like and taste like to you? What do you imagine the new paradigm to
mm,
be?
mm. I feel like that's so much how I live my life currently. So leaning into more of that, right? Like the community, unity, common unity between people, living together, sharing. That doesn't mean you have to live in the same house or the same, you know, farm or whatever. That it for me, what it means is living in a place where you're supported and people are supporting each other, whether that be through our work, that we're sharing common goals. Like you and I do similar things and we share and we activate and we amplify so more people know about how they can be in their highest self. um, then having families where families are supported and there's, a way that there's, people with shared values can start to become these portals of light where more and more people can see what's possible to have conscious families and conscious parenting. So for me, that's what the new paradigm is, but it doesn't seem that new. It's the ancient ways, right? It's what the medicine families are still doing and they've done for thousands of years. I mean, the Bribri in the indigenous here in Costa Rica and Puerto Viejo, they're living like that now. So that's not new paradigm. This is old ways. This is ancient. This is, living off the land and honoring the wisdom of the trees and honoring the wisdom of the earth. So for me, it's how I'm living and how I'm trying to live. Not trying, I am living more and more every day. It's my intention, and also to see how the indigenous are doing it and how can we weave with them, weave and weave and weave more with them, um, and honor their ways and not call them our new ways. And because we're not, um, we're not this, we're not the creators of those ways. So really making sure that they're included and they're the ones in these communities and in these retreats really sharing, um, their wisdom, because they'll unlock the keys and the codes. We just need to harmonize and then clear darkness within our own, the spiritual ego and all that stuff. Like, they'll be so giving with their information if we take spiritual ego, and those are important topics I love to talk about. If we take out those, some of those new age things that are, so we see it a lot in the spiritual community. But the people, the indigenous people, will, they don't want us to taint their practices with unpure energy. So for me, it's been really big, um, lessons over the past couple of years in discernment. Like, what truly is serving our planet, and in the work that we're doing, and in the relationships that we're making within community and creating community. So those are big topics, but I think that um, this new paradigm has to be rooted in indigenous ways and purity and innocence, like returning back to, why are we doing this? Because my friend recently here, she's working with the Bree in deep ways, and it's amazing. And she said that the shaman told her, and he doesn't even go by the name shaman. um he's a mister, like, they're not even like, oh, go to the shaman. They're born into this lineage. It's not something that has a title and an achievement. It's so pure. And he said that if this, like, new age culture um isn't rooted in purity, and there's so much darkness and spiritual ego, then it's just going to fall, just like everything else is crumbling around us, right? Like all the old ways. So if we really want to create this new earth, we have to root it in purity, and having the honoring and the reverence to the indigenous ways. So that's something I really deeply care about, and something that I learned through the last couple years of working with plant medicine, and also seeing, there's so much spiritual um, misalignment, and not cleansing the energy, not protecting the energy, or not honoring the plants in the way that they need to be honored. So these are topics I know that you are aware of as well, especially in your work. So if that yeah, I would love to hear your take on that as well.
Well, I'm so glad I asked you that question because you have
Yeah.
so much depth there, and there are so many. We could have like 5 spin-off
Yeah.
episodes. So stay tuned for 5 spin-off episodes for Fern
Thank
Olivia.
you.
Um, anyway, so that as you were, when you first started responding to that question, and you said, it's really not a new paradigm; it's ancient, and
Hmm.
that reminds me that we often
Mm.
say in my little community here with my mentor friends, Sean and Munai, we call it the ancient futuristic, the ancient future, and it really
Mm.
has me thinking a lot about time, and how much the ancient must inform our future, and then wondering too about the future informing our present, and
Mm.
really sort of looking at, like, visualizing what this world could be, living in harmony with nature from a place of purity, in honor of the people who have carried that torch forward through all of the broken systems that have happened
Yes.
around the planet over the last thousands of years. And how, yeah, we can continue, how we can take that torch and carry it forward in a way that honors them. I'm really grateful for your perspective and your work in that, and
Yeah.
that you brought in the plant medicines too. Yeah, because that's obviously, like, I'm really deepening my
Yes.
relationship there as well. Um, and also, I just want to weave in your work with the music. You talked about how much the music helped you in LA during that journey. But I also know that you work a lot with music in what you do now, in your ceremonial work, in your retreat work. So can you talk just briefly about the role of music in this ancient, futuristic, new old paradigm?
Thank you. So music for me is a way that people are connecting through a common heartbeat, a common frequency. I mean, it's what this ancient future is based on. People would join together in ceremony and sing and celebrate and use instruments and voices to come together and to really weave together using ancient codes. I mean, the flutes, the drums. Um, the drum is the heartbeat of Mother Earth. The flutes, the wind. I mean, so many native tribes around the world, one of their first instruments were flutes. And it's so amazing that they didn't have cell phones, they didn't have Google. How would they know to create this same instrument all around the world? I mean, we have Egyptian flutes, we have Arabic flutes, we have Native American flutes, we have Japanese flutes. Like, there's so many, there's a silver flute, there's so many different types of flutes, and they're built pretty similar. And it just blows my mind that people all around the world created these instruments. They gathered in circles and they shared music and song and chanting. And um, for me, what was healing so much for my thyroid, my throat chakra, years ago when I was living in LA, I would go to this place called the Bhakti Yoga Shala, and every Monday night they had a kirtan mantra singing, and I would just burst open. I started to really explore my voice through that, and I was starting to work with voice coaches and starting to work with amazing musicians who took me under their wing and said, come do this retreat with us. And I just like learning, absorbing, watching, witnessing how to sing. And that awoke something within my heart that was like, this is my purpose, I need to do this. And then being in Costa Rica and really being activated in ceremonies with plant medicine. I mean, sitting with grandmother ayahuasca, my voice was just like, and I received so much wisdom through her with the Icaros that this is my purpose to sing. And when I sing in ceremony, I feel like it's not Fern Olivia human ego. It's channeled in higher power source where I'm not thinking about what I'm singing. If I think about what I'm singing, it doesn't sound right. It'll sound out of, in some way I'll feel that it's my ego. But if I'm just completely surrendered to the ceremony, to source, I can be on so much medicine that I wouldn't be able to hold a conversation, though I can sing and I can play the instruments and feel what needs to be, orchestrated at a certain time for whatever energy is moving through the room. I'll know whether to start playing the singing bowls or end the singing bowls or sing an ikaro or sing something Sanskrit or, whatever. But it's not ego. It's not like, oh, I really want to sing this song next because it sounds amazing. It's complete source um, moving through me. And for me, that's been so healing for me, because then I don't have to show up and try to be anything or be anyone. All I need to do is be a channel of heaven and earth and use the portal of my voice and the instruments. And so for me, that's joy. That's pure joy that I can serve the divine in that way and guide people through a ceremony, in surrendering, complete surrender. Because in a ceremony, for example, whether it's cacao, whether it's breath work, whether it's psilocybin, there's a surrender that needs to happen in order to get the experience. And to be able to be in that place where someone is trusting me with their soul, leaving for a moment to go experience another dimension, is the greatest gift, to be trusted with that. And I'm so grateful, because it for me, that's freedom. For me, that's pure freedom, that I have that, capacity to just surrender to what is and go there. So yeah.
Wow, I am so excited to see you when I get down there this
Yes,
winter, and I'm really hoping that we get to sing in ceremony together. We shall. We'll make it
we
happen.
will.
Yeah,
So
I'm
it is.
bringing the
We
Wachuma,
shall.
so we could. I would love to invite you in and
Yes.
have you sing with and for us, and have your channel
Ooh,
activated.
that's an
What
honor. Thank you.
what
Yes.
do you feel like, so for those folks that are, very much like you and me, but maybe 7 years ago,
Mhm.
they're like, they've got that sort of inkling for it, and they're like, they've got the spiritual wisdom deep inside, maybe not so deep, maybe it's
Mm,
like right on the surface, it's bubbling forth, yet
mm,
they're still sort of in the desk job, doing the thing that,
mm,
and they're not quite feeling that they have found their full selves. They don't feel quite like they have found that free,
mm,
sovereign self yet. What's one action step that they could take to move more fully in
mm,
that direction?
okay. I'm visualizing myself right now, which is really hard seeing my really like tired, weary, corporate self with her high heels and her pencil skirt and her blazer sitting at the desk, and I didn't know who my soul was. Like I literally had no idea that there was even a greater purpose for me than staring at three computer screens for 10 hours a day. Like I just snuck out on my yoga, on my breaks, my lunch breaks, and went to yoga class. So one actionable step would be to start finding people who are embodying that life that you desire to live. This is what I did actually. A teacher told me this, a mentor, and she said, start living your life like this person right now. How would they eat their dinner? Like how do they treat themselves as they go about their day, right? Like because that puts you in that manifestation space. What did they do for self-care? Where are they traveling? And not to copy their lives, but to start embodying it as if you started to live a life like them. And I did start to do that. I had a dear friend who was living that dream life that I really wanted to. She was traveling the world, leading retreats. She had a full program of clients. She was really successful, really doing it. And this is what, as I was working my corporate job, and I said, okay, if she's doing that and she made that for herself, how do I start doing that? And so surrounding myself with more role models. And the only way that those people that you admire will start to actually hang out with you and want you to be in their presence, you have to maintain that energetic field. You have to up level yourself and start to really take impeccable care of yourself and get into alignment with abundance. Lose the scarcity mindsets and the doubts and the I'm not enough mentalities, because if you do think that, then those people will think it too. So it's not about being thinking of them on a pedestal at all. It's seeing yourself as I'm embodying that energy too, and I'm starting to really figure out, okay, what things in my life can I start doing to put myself in these places where these people might be. And then this is more than one thing, but as you start to do that, you start to meet these people and they just become your friends naturally, and then opportunities can present themselves. And remind yourself, you don't have to do that all overnight, but what I would say is that words are spells. So if you are saying, I'm trying to do this, or um, because trying means you're not there yet. You can say, I am doing this. I'm on my way to becoming this. I'm learning this. Um, so words are spells. The universe hears you, and if you're telling the universe that you're not there yet, you're not enough, you don't have enough money, or you don't have enough time, or whatever it is, then you won't have enough money and you won't have enough time. But if you are starting to activate those codes of having that abundance within yourself, feeling opulent, feeling abundant, taking yourself on trips, taking yourself on retreats, going to the places where love is going to find you if that's what you're looking for, or where highly spiritual enlightened beings are. If you're not in a place where you have those frequencies around you, then start going to places that do, so you can be part of that energy and co-create with spirit in that way.
Hell yeah. And so, and so let's talk more then about how folks could do that with you. So,
Yes.
where they can find you. I know that you're beautifully represented on the IG, on Instagram.
Thank you.
And I also know that you do hold retreats. Can you share with folks how they can find you and hang out with you in the world?
Yeah, I love hanging out. It's one of my favorite things in the world. So you can come sit on my porch on the floor with me and drink cacao. I actually was on my land today. How cute are these little cacao beans? This is a purple one, and this is a little yellow one. They're so cute. I actually
Yummy.
have 20 of them right now. So if you want to come to Costa Rica, that's where mainly I am based, in my land called Fairyland here with my beloved. And we give cacao ceremony, retreats, vocal activations, experiences in nature. And we also combine our retreats with the Bri, the indigenous community here, so we can go to cacao farms and learn about their traditions, learn about local herbs. For me, that's one of my favorite parts of a retreat is to really show what real Costa Rica is beyond, taking you to a beautiful yoga shala and giving you a sound journey, which I love that too. But, for me, what's really special about Puerto Viejo is that we have communities of true indigenous, real deep rooted ancestral energy that is, like I said, this old ancient way that the world will survive upon these values. So if that speaks to you, I have a couple of friends that I work with here as well. So we guide experiences with cacao, with music, with energy clearing and protection, with ceremony. So that's one way you can find me. So on Instagram at Fern Olivia. At Fern Olivia, my website is fernolivia.com. And my music partnership with my love is pranamore.com. It's prana and then more, like breath, and then the Spanish word of love, but just one A. We'll write it in the show notes, I'm sure. But
Yeah, we'll have all
just so,
these links in the show notes.
yeah, you'll find me. If you're meant to find me, then I will see you right here. Um, whenever that is.
Beautiful. Well, thank you so much, Fern. And this has been such a potent, profound, and fun, joyful, pleasurable conversation. And
Oh,
I'm excited to hug you in real life here in a couple months.
me too. I'm so excited to hug you too. And I just love how I love our sisterhood. And I love our friendship. And I'm so grateful, so grateful the universe brought us together.
Mwah. And thank you all for listening. Sending y'all tons of love
Tons of love and cacao.
and cacao.